What's up, engineers? Well, I can't assume you're engineers yet, but hopefully after this video, you will be. Today's subject is a game near and dear to my heart, Scrap Mechanic, brought to you by the creators of Raft. Now, I do want to give a genuine review of this game, but first I'd like to tell a story of why this game is so important to me. Let's all sit down and I'll tell you a story. It's funny. When I was nothing but a kid, 11 or 12-ish, I think, I first got into watching YouTube videos about video games. I was done with the brain rot of earlier years and moved on to the topic that takes up so much of my life today. And during this fundamental part of my online development, I discovered this video from a YouTuber named Chomps000, and he posted this video called Boxcar Transformer and Scrap Mechanic. It was dated for today's standards, pretty low res, but for my young little mind, this video blew everything away from me. I had to know more. So I began looking more and more into this game, Scrap Mechanic. It led to some of my favorite YouTubers at the time, Con Gaming and Scrapman. Scrapman being the more popular of the two, but Con always had a special place for me, as someone who loves inventing crazy shit and using problem solving to tackle challenges, even if I'm the one putting those challenges in front of me. Now, regardless of this, I started watching more and more of these YouTubers, dreaming of a day to play this game. At the time, I had nothing more than a 2011 MacBook High Sierra. I want to say this was all 2016-ish, maybe really early 2017. I knew it was like a little bit before Fortnite first released. I love how that's a valid measurement of time nowadays, but because my only computer access was that MacBook, it could only run Minecraft at 10 FPS, keep in mind, and that was at the lowest settings. I could only dream of playing the game. But around this time of my life, I started getting more into computers. I learned about virtual machines. I taught myself a little C++. I was addicted to Scratch and other just nerdy shit. So I learned from the advice of my father that it was possible to run Windows on a MacBook. I was ecstatic. I did all the house chores for 3 days just to have my parents buy me this game on my dad's Steam account. To much surprise to my adolescent mind, Windows wouldn't run any better than macOS did on that piece of junk. And I would get 1 frame a minute or so on the lowest settings with the resolution turned down to 480p. Suffice it to say, it was unplayable. So I continued only dreaming of this game, imagining the many things I'd make with its near limitless medium for creation. Until my birthday of that year. For Christmas, I got an Xbox One S, so I wasn't expecting anything more out of that year. Ecstatic just to be able to game at all. But to my absolute shock, my dad found an old HP workstation and he brought it home for me as an early birthday gift. We got a TV for a monitor that one of my dad's friends was throwing out because he got a new one and I think he didn't have room for it or something. And we hooked it up in the living room with some cheapo office keyboard and mouse or whatever that we could find in our house living room. And humble beginnings, but beginnings nonetheless. With this newfound power at my fingertips, all I played was Scrap Mechanic. This PC was no powerhouse by any means, but a solid 40 FPS at low settings at 1080p made me feel like a god. Finally, I could play this game. Now 7-ish years, 400 hours, and a new PC setup later, I bring us to today, where Scrap Mechanic is still one of my favorite all-time games. Only going under Rainbow Six Siege, which I fell in love with on the Xbox. This game is still such a huge part of my life that I recently made it to 1 year in a survival world that I play with some online friends. Bro, you're not Jamaican. There we go. Yahoo! Happy New Year.
Yahoo!
I apologize if the first half of this video seemed pointless to any of you. I know sharing my personal experience with this game isn't really relevant for review, but this is something I'm really passionate about, and this game is probably the reason I know enough about the internet and creativity that can bring you the video you're watching now. Now to move on to the actual game. Scrap Mechanic is an engineering game where you combine the physical interactions of objects with mechanical and electrical components to create anything your brain can muster up. The building system is simple, using blocks that contain various stats that affect their physical interactions. This had a great synergy with the easy to understand and possible to master wiring system, combining this simple input-output wiring system with logic gates that allow you to do simple but infinitely expandable computing, controllers that allow you to sequence actions, timers, sensors, pistons, bearings, and so much more make this game an engineer's heaven. not to mention a less than perfect, but insanely fun survival mode that gives you a reason for your creating, making this game a hidden gem of gaming. Now, I first fell in love with this game for its creative mode. This game didn't even have survival when I first got into it, but when survival came out, it took this game from a simple concept to a true masterpiece. Survival came out on a Thursday, a few months before COVID started where I live. I remember this day so vividly. I stayed home sick just to play it, hovering my mouse in Task Manager, restarting Steam over and over and over, just to see the update to play it. And boy, the second I saw the blue update button, my heart skipped a beat. That day, I started the very world that I would make it to 1 year in, just 4 years later. Survival is the entree that completes the building system's appetizer and the logic system's dessert, turning this game into a 3-course meal fit for royalty. Having to make machines to collect resources, machines to process the resources, and having infinite engineering capabilities to automate anything you need to survive. There isn't much to say for the survival mode. It completes the game, but it's very simple. You need food to survive, but growing food makes bots raid you nightly, and to build things to make this process more efficient requires metal, stone, and wood, as well as electrical components which you can find from the environments and from the robots attacking you. This game has some minor progression with the trader and the packing station, but these have very little effect on the game other than for weapons and further seeds to continue your endless farming. I admit, sometimes the survival system can seem very bare bones from the outside, but this is the kind of game where you need to make your own fun. If I didn't decide I needed to make a new base and new vehicles, then the game wouldn't have forced the progression at all. And once you unlock the spud guns, the trader kind of falls into the background. This is the biggest criticism that I hear about the game, but I simply disagree. The game has its fair share of bugs and shortcomings, but I think the game is like a diamond. Only the true masterpieces have cracks and dirty marks, proving that they're real and not some lab-grown carbon rock. If you set your own milestones, pave your own path, survival just adds a medium to my yearning to create and solve problems I didn't even know about. An example of this is my flying machine. I had a perfectly functional semi-truck and a mining rig. For the greater built-in progression, this is all the game requires of you. A truck to haul the fruit of my labor and a machine to harvest the resources I need. But I didn't want to stop. I knew if I kept pushing buttons, kept improving or innovating, I would find a whole new reason to play this game. A little before this time, I invited 2 online friends to play this game in the world. I met them through the game's Discord and have been consistently playing at least with one of them every weekend since. Having to accommodate for more people's needs and desires while also maintaining our survival is the main thing that led me to creating this machine. If you play Scrap Mechanic just for what's built in, then you would never see this. Hell, you have to push the game's engine to its limits just to make something like this. The flying machine utilizes a common glitch referred to as the suspension glitch, which by rotating a suspension piece in a confined space produces an infinite rotation force, which I utilize for the controls of the contraption. But this is something that I didn't think I needed till I set new goals for myself. Wanting to further colonize and control the world of the game, we wanted to set up a forward operations base to raid the Scrap City, a dangerous land where bosses spawn just as often as regular bots, feat made impossible by an impassable cliff blocking off the 2 road systems of my world. The only solution to this problem, which wasn't even built into the game but merely made by us, was a flying machine. Something capable of passing this cliff and jettisoning resources and people to our desired location. So I got to work. I'm not the type to follow tutorials for games like this, so a friend and I just built a huge platform over the ocean as a landing pad and workshop for the creation and research. Starting small with just 2 thrusters and 1 seat, this slowly developed into a highly capable cargo transport and combat vehicle whose usefulness surpassed every other thing we made. I still have further pursuits in this world. I built an armored personnel carrier to take us into the dangerous Scrap City and be able to survive hits from bosses and deal bigger hits back with its mounted machine gun, and we plan to raid the Scrap City for its resources. Beyond this, I eventually want to build an aircraft capable of transporting our heavy vehicles like the semi-truck and the APC long distances. You see, this game doesn't hit home with the fluff. Its trader progression and crafting system leave much to be desired, but at the core of this game is heart. Developers who made a passion project. They coded an entire lighting engine and scrapped together a barely functioning game engine to bring something that many other engineering games wish to achieve. Scrap Mechanic isn't anything like Ark or Palworld. It's more of a Minecraft, a game with Little narrative and fluff, but a deeply creative and open-ended center that leaves the player as the deciding factor of how the game is to be played. Now, before I leave, I'd like to mention a few things I couldn't dedicate the time I wanted to for the length I wanted this video to be. The multiplayer. This game has peer-to-peer multiplayer system. Ultimately functional, but it can be very buggy at times and has awful optimization. Mods and modded survival game modes. This game has a Steam Workshop support for mods, and this leaves pretty much infinite replayability after a visit to the workshop page. Challenge mode. A fun game mode that came before survival that is a good way to learn about the game and experience problem solving at its finest. Thank you for watching this video. I hope my personal experience with Scrap Mechanic will inspire you to give this game a shot and show the developers a little love in the process. Not a lot of people play this game, and those who do are so deeply knit into the community and the game that being a newcomer can be very daunting for some people. So I hope this video may help in some light with that. If you enjoyed this video, I recommend you check out the other videos on my channel reviewing Breachers VR and Battlefield 2042. If you want to see more of me, please subscribe to the channel. And lastly, if you really enjoyed this video, feel free to like it and show me that I did a good job. Again, thank you for your precious time. I'll see you next time.